Okay guys, today we're going to take a look at the Progressive Era, a period of immense reform. What prompted these reforms is that many Americans during the Gilded Age began rejecting the idea of laissez-faire economic policies. They were demanding far more from their elected officials and insisted that they fix a wide range of social ills. But the Progressives were anything but a uniform group. They directed their efforts towards the issue most pressing for their specific interests, and many times these interests were not complementary of one another. Many of the main focus areas they had are below. Here are the three main questions I want you to keep in mind while paying attention to the discussion that follows. Come back to them once you're done and make sure that you can answer them thoroughly. Here we have John D. Rockefeller, the U.S. Capitol, the U.S. Treasury, as well as oil. Let's take a look at the meaning of this before we move on. And here we have J.P. Morgan, chief financier of the United States, helping poor old Uncle Sam along on leading the U.S. economy. Well, the man did bail us out on more than one occasion, the whole U.S. government. That's how powerful these guys were. Despite the press's efforts to vilify these guys, men like Andrew Carnegie did donate over $100 million. On the other hand, railroad magnates like Vanderbilt here expressed very little interest in following the public's needs or wants. What was the answer? Well, simply, one seizes finish unless good government retakes the ship. And that was something the American people planned on doing. They simply could not tolerate these robber barons from exploiting groups like these. Not only the children of the United States, but women, the poor, the elderly of all kinds. They wouldn't take it anymore. The earlier reform movement, called the populist movement, had a lot to do with that, but so did muckraking journalists like Upton Sinclair here, who wrote The Jungle, which detailed the disgusting conditions of meatpacking in the United States. When big business wasn't shelling out all kinds of disgusting products to the American consumer, they were busy sending so many toxic chemicals into wildlife and waterways that this river, the Cuyahoga River, actually set on fire. Yes, that's right, a river that's on fire. Big businesses simply were out of hand, and they had to be stopped before they took further control of institutions like the White House itself. They had already managed to gain control of the Capitol, as well as state legislatures. Here we can see how a variety of different trusts have taken control of the Senate. This sign reads, "This is a Senate of the monopolists, by the monopolists, and for the monopolists." We even see a People's Entrance back here on the corner reading People's Entrance, closed. Look at the size of these guys as opposed to the size of the senators. This tells us a lot in regards to the meaning and the power of these interest groups, as well as the power of representative. Local politics as well was under the control of big bosses like Boss Tweed here, and the immigrant populations that they treated like puppets. And these same immigrant groups were pouring in the millions into places like Ellis Island. Between 1890 and 1920, the same approximate period of the Progressive Era, 20 million immigrants came in. These immigrants weren't the same as the previous immigrants were. They had different religions, different political beliefs, as well as a different set of mannerisms, clothing, a variety of things that made them quite different. And the American people felt that there was no way they could tolerate these people coming in the masses that they were. After all, these same people were desecrating the Sabbath or the holy day, bringing in poverty, disease, as well as anarchy. These were things that the American people felt they simply could not tolerate. Simply put, many of the American people felt that these new immigrants didn't share their same values. Here we see a family get-together in a saloon of all places. Furthermore, in addition to such low values according to the American people, they would even steal the bread right out from under the American family. Yet, despite all this, immigrants continued to come in, and this is often how they lived. Not the best sleeping areas yet, as you saw on the last slide, not a whole lot of options for these new immigrant groups. On the plus side, these kids got to do what they wanted, but with the costs of this sort of thing, and this being your recreation area, the costs seemed to outweigh the benefit. Yet what choice did the immigrant workman have when he was tied to the stake of monopoly? In addition to controlling the press, big businesses could even use state and federal militias to break up strikes like these, the Great Uprising of 1877. The white working classes obviously weren't the only ones facing violence as well. A number of blacks, particularly those heading up north, as well as those remaining in the south, were facing groups like these, which is why actions like these continued and increased. And where outright violence didn't work, state legislatures passed a number of other laws to keep blacks from the polls. And blacks